Hello and welcome to the Park and Recreation Board meeting. I will pass this meeting off to Doug Kraus, the chair.
Good evening and welcome to first meeting of 2021 rather, sorry. Hope everybody had a nice new year, and we will get started with Park and Rec board meeting for January of 2021. We'll have a roll call. Dennis Isaki is here this evening, Michael Brody, Mike Blundy, Kim Rock, Supervisor James McCartney, Park and Rec Director Monica Tierney, and want to welcome our newest member, Mr. Rob Labar, who's joining the committee. This is his official first meeting, so welcome, Rob. I don't know if you want to take a moment and just let everybody know about yourself, how long you lived here, what's your hobbies, what do you do when you're not working, or what do you do when you're working?
Sure. I've lived in Lower Makefield since 1995, I guess it is. My kids are in college now. I've participated in coaching sports throughout that. Looking forward to just kicking back and relaxing. I'm married for 25 plus years. Grew up in Western Pennsylvania. My dad was a forester, so I have a love for the parks and the forestry and that. I got 2 dogs, and that's about it.
Suffering Steelers fan.
Yeah, let's not mention that.
All right. Before we move on to the meeting minutes, I do want to take a moment and recognize, I know she's not on the meeting here, and Patricia Bunn, who was long-serving member of our committee for 19 years. I just publicly wanted to take a moment and recognize her for all her contributions. She was passionate about many different things within the Park and Rec system here and supported many initiatives in Lower Makefield. She was the proponent for the dog park, had a lot of passion for Memorial Park, and was, in my experience, also provided great advice to a lot of the scouts that came in front of the park board. So I just wanted to take a moment and recognize her for her 19 years of service for Park and Recreation and for Lower Makefield.
Thanks, Doug, for doing that. I actually am glad you did that. I think Tricia's input will be sorely missed. She was, I think, a tremendous asset to the board while she was serving the community. And she was always the person that had insight into some detail that the rest of us were scratching our heads about. But I just wanted to, I guess, go on record and say her presence will be sorely missed.
I second all of those sentiments. Missed you tremendously. Very good.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dennis. Next order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from, we had a November 2020 Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting. So if anybody has any comments, additions, or changes, now we can make a motion to approve the advisory board minutes. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 10th, the November 10th minutes. We'll do the November 10th first because we have to do 2 minutes tonight.
Right. We're going to do our regular meeting minutes.
Yeah. So we'll make a motion to approve the November 10th Park and Recreation Board minutes.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting minutes approved for the November 10th Park and Rec meeting. And then secondly, there was a joint committee meeting on November 19th with the Disability Advisory Board.
Yeah. So I'll make that again. I'll make a motion to approve the November 19th joint committee meeting, Park and Rec Board and Disability Advisory Board minutes.
I will second that as well.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 All right, meeting minutes are approved. Next order of business is our consideration to reorganize the park board. We have 3 positions. that we have the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Do we have any nominations for the chair of the Park and Recreation Board for 2020-21?
I would nominate Douglas Kraus as the continuing chair.
Second that.
I will accept. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, if we don't have any other nominations, do we have a vote? All in favor of myself as remaining chair?
Aye.
Raise your hand. All right.
That's the easiest vote you ever get, Doug.
Yep. Wish you can come to my house and tell my family about
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Careful what you wish for, right? Anyway, vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair of the Park and Rec Board for 2021?
I would nominate Michael Brody.
I'll second that.
Do we have any other nominations? Mike, do you accept the nomination?
Yeah, I accept that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Without any other nominations, finish up.
No, just I'm voting aye.
All in favor? Please raise your hand. Say aye.
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 All right. So our vice chair for 2021 is Mr. Michael Brody. Congratulations.
Thank you.
He's just firing up the ranks, man. He's a
I got to watch out when I step in front of the street. A bus might come by, driven by Mr. Brody.
on a rocket ship, Michael.
No comment.
Next position is secretary. Do we have any nominations for recording secretary for Park and Rec for 2021?
I'll nominate Kim Rock for secretary.
I second that.
Kim,
I will accept. Thank you.
do we have any other nominations? If not, all in favor of Kim as recording secretary?
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Congratulations, Kim.
So, Kim, no one told you the truth of what that job entails? Oh, my God.
I think it entails
Did Brody lie to you?
saying my name a few times and smiling. I don't know.
I think Brody fed you a line. I think he lied.
She has photo proof.
I have screenshot conversational proof.
You have to whenever we get back on the road tour, you have to drive the bus. So.
There's a
I can
couple
do
of things that have to be
I will bring snacks.
There's a couple of things that have to be addressed on the road tour.
Yes. All right. So we've taken care of the first four things on the agenda. Monica, is our Eagle Scout project proposal person ready to present?
You should be in the waiting room. Let me just check on that.
Hi, Sam. Welcome to the Park and Rec Board meeting. Just gonna have to go off mute. There you are.
I believe also his father and troop leader. Yeah, they're coming in too.
All right. I see.
Yeah. So, do I just get started or?
Are we waiting for one more person to come on, Monica? I see a Sam screen share. I just don't know if that they're gonna.
Oh, that's the screen I'm going to use to present my presentation.
Hey, Sam, if you have two computers running, can you turn the volume down on one?
You have an echo, Sam.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo.
All right. I'll just turn that down. Is it good?
That's much better.
That's
Thank
better,
you.
All
All
right.
right, Sam, we've got all the members of the Park and Rec Board here, so we will turn it over to you for your presentation, and welcome again.
All right. Hold on. Let me set this up. Okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna start presenting right now. Oh, can you guys see it?
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes. Why don't you, Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, what's your school, what grade, all the good stuff before you hop into your project, right?
Okay.
And Sam, you'll also have to say your address for the record.
Okay.
The record. Yep.
My name's Samuel Wang. I'm in 11th grade. I go to Pennsbury High School. I go to Boy Scouts. I'm part of a troop, which is Troop 10, which is which is hosted at the Yardley Methodist Church. You guys heard of that? Pretty sure you heard of it. And I've been doing Scouts for about like 7 years or 6 years. I'm not exactly sure, but around like close to that measure of time. And my address is 933 Hamilton Drive, Yardley, PA 19067. So, yeah, that's a bit about myself. And yeah, so I just want to present this project plan that I've been trying to do for a couple months. So it's really nice that I get to talk with you guys for finally after like a couple like months. So yeah. All right. I guess I can just hop into the presentation. Okay. So the agenda. Well, this is just my my personal agenda. It's just I need to present the overview, talk about the materials I'm going to use during the project. Well, not exactly too concrete, but like it's pretty concrete materials, but it's not like super in depth. I still need to fix some things. The costs roughly of the project, how I'm going to fundraise for the project, and also how I am going to maintain the project so it can be used for a long period of time and not degrade. Well, it will degrade over time, but how I can maintain its state of condition as good as possible. Okay, so overview. So this is basically what I'm building. I'm building a shade cell. If you don't know what that is, it's a cell can protect you from the sun. Well, it covers you from the sun when it's very sunny. When it's very like hot outside, and you can just put it on, and it will protect you from the sun, and also light rain probably, and it'll help like make it easier for like parents to like watch your kids while they play in the playground, and like still be able to like survive in the heat of the summer. So yeah, I'm building possibly at the secret garden playground at the garden reflection. Here are some photos. Yeah, these are personal ones, but I'm building a park one. So here I have a picture of the one I'm building kind of. So as you can see, like I'm probably going to be installing some of these poles. And I'll make a cover similar to this design. And it'll just create an angle that will help keep the heat off people while they sit under a bench or something, so they can watch your kids comfortably without having the heat always shining on them and being uncomfortable. So yeah. This is the garden playground, and the location is, I'm planning to put this shade cell structure is near this like small washroom table, so parents can sit down here, and hopefully someone else can install like some kind of bench under here, so people can all sit under there. But it's about like this rectangle, this square the shape of the square. That's how much the shade should cover. And I like that some sunlight website. It's just tell you what the angle of the sun at is during the summer, and it did show a pretty good angle, so it should cover enough of the sun if it is built correctly. So, yeah, that's a rough location.
Sam, excuse me, do you know on your photo here which direction is, where the compass directions are, like where's north? And
I think this is north. So here, this side is like this is east. The sun rises in the east and falls in the west, right? Yeah. So it's
last I remember, yeah.
It rises in the east and it like covers here and goes in the west. So this is the west, kind of. This is north.
Okay.
So
you were in a
the
position.
pavilion area right here, Dennis. The little building here, that's where the bathrooms are.
No, yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to figure out, like he was talking about the way the sun comes across. It's just a matter of him positioning the sail.
Monica, the new side of the park, is that the west side or the east side?
East side.
East side. So yeah, so Dennis, so the right side of that photo is pretty much the east side.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's the rough location of the sail. The time frame. This is a rough time frame of how I'll be doing this project. I want to get everything straightened out, all the building problems and all the project, like small details and stuff, straightened out in January and February. So just like the preparation phase, then I'm gonna start fundraising in like March. Hopefully, I don't think it will be possible to begin building in April, but hopefully, if I can, I can start thinking about starting the project in like April, like actually constructing it if I get it approved. So, and if I am able to successfully follow all these steps, then I can hopefully finish by the end of May, possibly. So that's the time frame. Rough time frame. Materials. I contacted a website called Shades LLC, and they provided me with a quote for the construction of a 10 by 10 shade sail. So it's a quadrilateral with 10 by 10 shade sail, and this should be enough to cover the area I want to cover. So, yeah, and the sail's going to cost $500. The hardware kit should cost $100, and a couple other hardware parts are going to be about that much. And what I need to look into is what kind of poles I will use to hold up the sail. I'm considering steel poles, but after searching through the internet for a decent amount of time, I did not find anything that was for a decent price. Most of them were pretty expensive, and I'm not sure if I can fundraise that much. And Monica suggested I possibly use wooden posts, so that's what I'm thinking about doing. But I still need to fix up the wooden post part, and concrete. I know the amount of concrete I need, but I still don't know how much it will cost. So basically everything, all the hardware and the sail included, will be about $800. And the pole cost, I'm not exactly sure. And also I need to find out the concrete cost. And after that, I'll add them up. And yeah, I looked at it and it was about 1.5K overall, the whole project, but I'm not exactly sure if I can find a good pole cost. And yeah.
Monica, I know we had a previous presentation about a similar shade sale for the dog park, right? From another scout. Did they come up with an idea on what type of poles they were going to use? And is there some benefit? Like, is there some sharing of information that might be available?
I believe the two presenters are friends or know each other from Scouts. I believe he presented wood, if I remember correctly. I did talk to Jim Majewski about this. Jim Majewski came out on site and met with Sam and said that wood would be fine.
Okay.
Galvanized steel is, of course, going to last longer. It's going to be more sturdy, a little bit more maintenance with wood. We will have to keep track of it and take care of it. But, you know, either way is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know, since someone else had talked about a similar project, if there was some sharing of information about the poles, at least.
Yeah. Basic cost, materials. This is a video on how to connect the shade cell to the pole, but I don't think we really need it.
No, that's fine. Hey, Sam, I assume that the posts that you're going to use for mounting the sail on, they're going to get set in concrete that's going to be in the ground. You're going to dig a hole, put the concrete in, and then mount the post, whether it's steel or wood. Is that right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, we will just uncover the rubber surface off the playground.
That was going to be my question to Monica. Monica, is that something that we can? I know that surface has had its issues, but is that something that's got any other concerns? You know, cutting through the surface and creating the spaces for the post supports.
We actually had this discussion, Dennis, because I was a little concerned about it. I'm trying to time his project with the patching of the surface area, the patching we plan to have done this year. And if I can time it just right, or even if it's after his project, I could just have whatever needs to be patched around this project fixed at that time.
Yeah. So I like the idea of some shade for the people that use the secret garden. The other question I would throw out there is, maybe not a question, but just a comment. The pole material, we should probably just consider safety in some regards, like, because there's going to be little kids running around, and I don't know if wood increases the chances of someone grabbing it while they're running past it and getting a splinter, or vice versa. Maybe the galvanized steel would get too hot in the sun or whatever. But I just think we probably have to consciously consider the various safety aspects of the materials before you settle on one.
There might be padding that, like, Monica, I don't know, like, that you can put around the pole at a certain height, where kids are, that age group, so that if they are running around and don't bang into the pole, like it's cushioned. So I don't know if they make, like, you'll see stuff that's, in gyms and whatnot, they put cushions up around, so if people should slam into a pole. But that, I don't know, Monica, if that's something we want to consider.
Now, we did discuss this also, the potential, to be honest, all the playground equipment is exposed to be run into as, out there, where I have to pad everything. I imagine we'll have to treat the wood like we would at Kids Kingdom. So if we do a wood type surface, we'd have to treat it the same way that we treat the wood at Kids Kingdom to make it playground compliant. I'd be glad if it makes the board feel a little bit more comfortable to make sure to communicate with our ensure they have a risk management manager who inspects our playground, very familiar with the playground. I'd be glad to reach out to him too. He has a playground safety certification, so I could have him, ask his opinion also about the location. With regard to the ground, we did talk about, the potential of having to dig through there. Jim Majewski feels very comfortable with cutting out a space to be able to put in that is not really going to injure the surface. But there's also another location we had discussed. So in the event that we can't do that, there was a place where there was a tree at one point where we could potentially, where Sam, I'm saying we, but where Sam can dig, where there's already a hole in the surface that could create shade. It would just change the angle and location a little bit of the shade sail. So there's that, and I don't know if the park board knows this either, is there's a lot of momentum from the Disability Advisory Board to get shade out there. They've been asking me for a long time to get any kind of shade out there. I know that they're very excited about some sort of project and have been hoping a Boy Scout would pick this up for some time. So, the aspect of having that shade that maybe someone who has a disability can go to on the playground, or that parents can sit at while the kids are playing, it has been something that they've been concerned about too.
One other comment, Monica. I know the area of the park that Sam is pointing out here over the mushroom table.
Mm-hmm.
What I can't recall from my visits there is that close enough to the fencing where you could maybe have the posts be exterior to the park and just have longer chains that would put the sail over the intended area, but just with the post external to the park?
Well, two of the posts would be outside. That's why that location was a location we had looked at. Okay. We did walk the park together. So 2 posts would be out, 2 posts would have to be inside to stabilize the other side. It is a square. It's not the triangles that you saw. It's more of a square, right? Am I right, Sam?
Yeah, it's a quadrilateral.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually my question, is the square the best shape to cover the most area with shade? Like, would a triangle might be better, or, I mean, it's certainly less post, right? Did you look at a triangle?
I looked into a triangle, but I asked the company gave me a quote. I asked what was good, and they suggested the square. So, no, I didn't look too much into the triangle exactly, but I told the company like what I was trying to build, and so they suggested. So yeah.
Monica, were they triangles at the dog park, or was that square?
Square or rectangle, even. I think it might have been.
Well, I know there's probably, I don't know which one provides better shade. I'm sure maybe the rectangle, just because of its area, probably would. But Mike raises a good point. If we were to go with a triangle version there, you could maybe just put 1 post inboard.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a concern. I don't know if the posts, obviously the posts are going to be a new impediment. And if you wanted to minimize that, 1 post interior, 2 exterior might be another consideration. Then again, I think the important thing here is, I know we're trying to get some shade. You're under pressure to get some shade there. Sam's got a nice project. I'm supportive of a program to get some shade in there. Just a couple of thoughts around, before we finalize everything, what the right thing to do is.
Monica, was there any guidance on shade, on the color of the material?
I would imagine that we would choose a color that fits the look and feel of the space.
I know that the playground's got multicolored in there, so we're not maybe not as limited as we chose for the dog park. Try to keep it more green-ish versus the park's got a lot of different colors in there. So I didn't know if you provided any guidance to that.
The Disability Advisory Board may have some guidance on that. That might be something that would be a good stimulant for, certain disabilities. I think maybe it might be a good idea to reach out to them. They would know more about that than I would. But other than that, I would just go with something that fits the look and feel of the space.
I got a few questions, thoughts. Would you mind, Sam, would you mind backing up to the overview shot, the overhead shot of the park? I love the idea in general. So I want to say, like, in general, I love the idea, and shade is definitely needed there. So Monica, is the tree in the center, in the tree that you're talking about, is that in the center of that red? Is that the other you're thinking of?
Yeah. So there's been a number of trees there that never survived. They just can't make it in that space. I think the intention of the tree originally was maybe some shade, but nothing will survive there. So there's a hole right there in the middle of the red that has some. The reason why we went away from it is it's quite a bit of a stretch from the side. It'd be quite a much larger scale space to cover.
I guess my general thinking on it is, one, the way that park's used, I tend to find the tables rarely used. The little, if you just go to like kind of clockwise, like from that table where he'd put that little gray thing to the right of the entrance, that's a tiny little rock formation, I believe. And then the next thing, like most of the activity ends up happening towards the back. Something I would wonder is, could you tie on a cable from either of the two pavilion structures and then not need so many poles, so that if you're essentially bringing from a corner of the pavilion a cable in towards the middle, and then you make the thing smaller. I love the idea. I'm just worried that locationally it's just not, it's not going to hurt the park. I guess I just would like to. I guess what I'm saying is I like this idea. I think we could use more of those across the center of the park, and it might not be proper as a Cub Scout project. That might be a bigger, larger scale project or something like that. But Kim, what do you think? I mean, that's to me a common area where people stand is around that slide. If you look in the picture, you can see the shadows of people standing. What tends to happen is people tend to congregate around the slide area. That way you can watch kids who are swinging on the swing. You're on the slide. The high climbing structure is up to the left of the swings. And then to the right is that big rocking thing where you always need an adult to help push it because it's so heavy. So like the reality is like, just in actuality, most of the parents end up hanging out towards the back part of that area of the playground. So I don't think it's bad to put coverage over a table. Anybody who comes and sits at a table is definitely going to want some shade. So I think from that standpoint, this is a great project. But I wouldn't be opposed to somehow trying to figure out if there's a way to make it more centralized, because that way, we could expand upon that if we chose to.
I agree. I think I feel like the part that I've always kind of gravitated towards was where those couple benches are by where the little plastic like telephone thing is, like in front of the bathroom. But at the same time, I do feel like people sit at the tables. I mean, I know I'm just picturing, like moms sitting at the tables with smaller kids, feeding them, whatever. So I think either would be fine, but I get what you're saying. And I agree that a lot of the people tend to congregate more towards the middle just because that's kind of the central point of everything.
And then the other question I'm sorry. The other question I had is, would this come down during winter? And I asked that, reminding everybody how
yeah, I was going to talk about it during the maintenance side, but.
Okay. So these will come down, Monica, and we'll take these down then. So what would be the highest point that these would be hung and the lowest point these would be hung, roughly?
What do you mean by that?
Like how high off the ground is this connecting? Like 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet?
I was thinking like 10 feet or something at the highest point, and then there'd be a drop because it has to be angled, so the water, when it rains down, the water just drops down like
yeah.
So I was thinking like 8, 10, and then there'd be a curve about to like 8 feet, and then there'd be 2 feet like difference. Because most people, like, I don't think they're like highest. Most people are like be like 6 feet tall or something, but I don't know. I think 8 feet at the lowest would be able to cover the sail. So, and the highest point would be 10 feet. So,
okay.
So,
and Monica, it might just be good that or Sam, when you get that from the vendor, it might just be good to check with them to see if they have a recommended height for the area that's going to be in, because you wouldn't want to put that in and then have it be like too low and almost feel something that would be high and provide shade, all of a sudden could be claustrophobic feeling if it's too low. So I'm sure they can give you the guidance on that based off the size of the space and everything, what they think that should be. So that would just be.
All right. Yeah. I was just about to say that I was thinking too that at first, like my two options at the beginning was one was to do either the table or I would do either the table or the bench, but I thought there was just more room to cover all the poles inside the playground without having to keep the poles like sticking outside and two on the inside. So that's what I was thinking, but because I thought that would look kind of weird because it had like two poles inside into it. That's what I thought. So yeah. Fundraising. I was gonna do a GoFundMe, and I was probably gonna do some car washes. But Monica suggested I contact the Disability Advisory Board, and they said because they really want this sale to be put on in the playground. So I was thinking they could help me with the fundraising too. And my parents and I are probably also going to contribute the bigger the expense. So yeah. And also I was thinking if I could line up at the playground and I would ask them if they wanted to donate some money to help make the structure because they're the ones that use it. So yeah. And the maintenance. Yeah, this is what you wanted to know. There's a rough maintenance thing. I need to carry out regular checks of the structure if it's built, monitor and repair sales. After like major wind events, like there's like a huge wind or something, and cut back on overhanging trees or branches, which I don't think if we keep it inside the playground. Watch for vandalism signs. Hopefully not. And I need to take a photographic record of sales during inspection. I have a list. I still have more. It's on this. The website has a maintenance manual, which I'll provide to community once I construct the structure. So,
Sam, did the manufacturer provide you with an estimated lifetime? What the how long the sales last typically? Based on normal usage.
No, but I could ask them.
I think that's just when you get all your components together, then that's something that you can let Monica know. So, what the expected time is for that might be needed for replacement under normal circumstances.
Yeah, I can definitely ask them for the lifetime expectancy. Yeah.
Hey Sam, as part of the project to qualify as your Eagle Scout project, what are there requirements for you doing ongoing maintenance? Because I got to imagine, like after you graduate from college and get a job, it's going to be tough for you to come back and monitor the sale. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think there's specific requirements for maintenance. Okay, but yeah, I don't think there's specific requirements for maintenance.
So Monica, I would think like once a project like this is done within the it's acceptable to the township and the engineer and everyone. Does the ongoing maintenance of the structure convert to the township at some point?
Yeah, I mean, unless if he is passionate about wanting to check on this project, you could turn it over to us, Sam, and if you just give us any manuals that you may have gotten or about maintenance and upkeep, that would be something that we would need. Other than that, you're off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully we can get that figured out. Yeah. And that's basically it for the presentation, really. Yeah, I think that, well, if it gets approved, then hopefully I can.
Does, Sam, first of all, a very nice job, much appreciated in taking your, in the efforts that you put in to put this together and come in front of the board and present this wonderful opportunity. I just want to make sure before we vote, if there's anybody else on the board that has any other comments or questions for you before we recap kind of the comments and feedback. Rob, I see you're about ready to
I don't know
ask.
if this question should be directed at Monica. The construction plans seem to be for about a month. Is the park going to have to be closed during that time, or what's the game plan for what's going to go on during the construction phase?
To be honest, once we come up with a good plan, once Sam has a good plan in place and a team he assembles to put it together, we'll probably have to at least, if at minimum, close off the area that he's working. But we'll have to kind of check that out as we go. If it's going to be dangerous to have people running around there, or if we can't keep people out of the area, it might be something where we have to close the park for the days that he's, maybe laying the concrete or that type of thing.
Monica, do you know what the material is underneath the playground? Is it crushed stone or is it just dirt? Or
What do you mean underneath the rubberized surface?
yeah, underneath the rubberized surface.
There's actually a rubberized mulch underneath the rubberized surface, then stone below that.
All right, I guess. So my project, so.
So if there's not any other questions, we can go ahead and take a vote on approving Sam's project for a shade sale at the Memorial Park Secret Garden. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Stab at that if you want. So make wait, let me pull up my agenda so I get the name right. Sorry. I have it. Sorry. All right. So I'll make a motion to approve Eagle Scout project proposal for the shade sale Secret Garden at Memorial Park by Samuel Wang. In coordination with Monica Tierney on the placement and final construction design.
You got it there? Yeah, I second that. Good job, Brody.
How's that sound?
Great.
So again, just say it again. I'm just making a proposal to approve Sam's project as presented in discussion with Monica Tierney as they formalize planning of location and materials and construction. So that means, Sam, you'd be approved to move forward, and we'd entrust Monica to figure out the best place.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Hi.
All opposed? All right. Sam, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Good job. Look forward to seeing it come to completion, and we'll be out there enjoying some shade at the Secret Garden. All right. Good luck. Thank you for your support.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sam. Good
Thank
work.
you, Sam.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is we need to find a replacement for the liaison to the 9/11 20th Anniversary Committee. So I don't know.
So
Yes, Michael, you raised your hand. You have a question you'd like to.
I second the nomination.
I know when we first talked about this, I said I didn't think I'd be able to do it with baseball. But I don't know if you guys know this, but I was next door to the New York Stock Exchange when 9/11 happened. And I think I'll try to put my head forward and step forward and do this for us if people will have me do that.
I second that.
All right, Michael, I guess we can all in favor with Michael joining
Here, here.
20th anniversary committee as their liaison. Thank you, Michael, for stepping up.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. They'll fire you on baseball anyway, so you'll have free time.
Very true.
All right, number 7, Capra updates. I'd want to open it up to anybody. I know, Rob, you're going to join Mike's team for the Capra updates, but given the holidays, I just don't know if anybody's has any updates for Monica on their committee reports.
No updates for us. We did have a couple meetings scheduled that got pushed, and with the holidays, we just weren't able to meet.
I'll just say, since Rob's on here, I'll just say I'm expecting that Monica has some interns that are joining or have joined or will be joining soon. And Rob, I think you, me, Monica, and the interns will be having some degree of a call at some point, right? I think that's our plan. I think that's how we're tackling ours as a group.
Sounds great.
Kim, do you have an update for?
Yeah, obviously we got tied up with the holidays too, so I think we'll jump back into it now that things are back to normal.
Semi-normal.
Doug, just real quick with that being said, we are the new interns start next week.
Okay, great.
Another semester was pushed back. I'm going to assign one of them to Chapter 6 and one of them to Chapter 7, so they can kind of be a liaison and help you with supporting documents or do research for you along the way. So maybe we can set up some times for you all to meet with the interns to get to know them a little bit, and maybe you can start getting some direction. I'd be glad to jump in those meetings also to help guide.
Yeah, just if you can, I know all our schedules are somewhat flexible based on everybody's working remote, but if we can get on a quick 15-minute introductory call with the appropriate interns for our assigned sections, and then then we can work out what times work best for them and us in terms of just understanding their work schedule and their demands, so that we're not asking them to do things at some odd hours. Just everybody's got different schedules, so but that would be great.
Yep. So I will be in touch with you soon about that.
All right, Monica, I don't know, is there any league liaison folks in waiting room for tonight?
I do not have eyes on the waiting room, so I'm going to ask our moderators today if there are any leagues on the line today to speak.
No one in the waiting room.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, so Monica, the next on the agenda is your reports, your director's report. Sorry, you're on mute, Monica.
Muted.
That's the best way to hear me, muted. So we've been talking a little bit back and forth about reviewing policies, creating policies where there are gaps, all part of CAPRA. There are certain policies that are required from CAPRA. There are certain interest policies that you've had in the past. And then I've also found the 1994 manual that had some very old, outdated policies that I used as some guidance for some of the sections. So I sent all of them to you for your review, and today I have it up for discussion. I just want to put out there that all of these are under current legal review as they are. If there's some significant changes that are brought up tonight that you'd like me to do or bring up to them as part of that process, but none of them have been through legal yet. So if you do decide that you want to recommend one tonight, any of these policies to the BOS, that it would have to be pending legal review.
The legal review, did that include any of the comments and changes that the group had made recommendations, or were they before any of our
No, it was all after the comments and feedback. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want me to, Doug, I can just go through each one and see if anybody has any feedback on the new updated versions I sent you this last week to review. And if there are, the board can decide at their leisure, how you want to handle it, how you want to go about moving forward. We can always bring it back to the February meeting.
Yeah, I think if we just quickly go through them, some of them, are pretty cut and dry, and some probably had a little bit more commentary than others. So I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable, since I don't know if everybody got to see everybody's comments and feedback, but I know there was a couple that had some strong comments, and want to make sure everybody's aligned on a couple of those policies. So we can go through the easy ones first, Monica, and then and then just get to some of the ones that had a little bit more comments. So.
Sure. Let me just organize myself in that order real quick. Yeah. Okay. So the Parks and Recreation Department operating policy, that policy had very minor changes. While I feel that this is a very base operating policy, and then maybe over time it may be expanded, I think it's a good start to what we're doing here. So if anybody has any feedback, I'd be glad to talk about that tonight.
Well, if you said that the comments were minor, sounds like there's not a lot to talk about. I would suggest this one be, moved on.
Yep.
Doug, would you like to motion these individually as we're going through them one by one?
Yeah, because let's do each one. So
what are we going to motion them for? What is
this the motion to, does this go to the Board of Supervisors or?
Yeah, as part of the code, all of the policies that you recommend then have to go before the Board of Supervisors.
For what? For their approval?
For their approval. Or just review even. So if they decide that it's fine and we can move forward with it, that's fine too, but they have to have oversight.
So we would approve it pending any legal changes,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you want to confirm that the rest of the board is aligned with this policy, Doug, just to say we'll approve it?
Well, you'd make the motion and then have discussion and then.
Well, the motion was going to be to move it to the supervisors, right? But
yeah, pending legal review.
I'm a little confused, so take us where you want to take us.
Someone would have to make a motion
To what?
to recommend to the Board of Supervisors pending legal review, and someone would have to second it, then it open for discussion.
Okay, before we do that, I was just asking Doug, did you want to, by show of hands, did you want to see if our board is aligned with this policy as it's stated to move forward? Not before we make the motion to send it to the supervisors?
So I guess we're not making a motion for discussion, right?
Right. Just.
I mean, if there's does anybody else have any comments or changes regarding the policy? Do we want to bring it into a vote in front of to go to the supervisors, or do we want to wait for?
I'm good as is. I'm good as is.
You're good as is. Everybody's good as is, right? All right, we've got unanimous.
I will make a motion.
I'm grabbing the charger real quick. I'll be right there. I vote for this. I support this.
Thank you, Brady. I'll make a motion that we submit the Park and Recreation Department operating policy as stated to the supervisors for their review and or approval as they
pending legal approval.
Legal review.
That's second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Monica, we'll move on to the next policy.
Okay.
Equipment.
The next one is the naming policy. Same. Had minor edits. We had been through this one already in another meeting. Same things, pending legal review. Has not been reviewed by the lawyer yet. but right now there was just very mild adjusting commas and a couple little words here and there, but not anything significant.
I'm sorry, what was the title of that one?
The naming policy.
Which we've discussed at a previous meeting.
So I just had one. I had a couple little things on the naming policy. Where was it? I think something that just kept jumping out to me at one point in this was I kept getting the feeling that we were trying to write a rule without saying we don't want to rename Memorial Park, that we want to make sure that we keep 9/11 Memorial Park, 9/11 Memorial Park. And without actually explicitly saying that, it felt like there was a bunch of rules that went in. And I guess I was just wondering, I just wanted to ask the question, do we want to explicitly just say that we don't want to rename 9/11 Memorial Park? Or, is the way I read that, is that correct? Is that how that was intended, or no? Could that was something that stuck out. The other thing was that there was I felt like I saw something saying that we wouldn't do any names associated with tobacco, alcohol, and all those things. And I personally, I thought it was a little too specific. Somebody wants to come in and give us $15 million to build a baseball facility, or some other facility that we could use for, that has a need. I'm not 100% sure that, I would care that it's named Bud Light Field. I don't think I'm going to make it a $15 million thing here, but I just don't know if, I think that could just be softened up to say, I think we could say it without saying it so explicitly. I think
where's the bullet there that you're referencing?
It's in exclusions, the last page of the naming policy, exclusions. I guess I'm just wondering if we could write the exclusions more gently so that it was more of like, extra consideration should be given towards that sort of thing. And then I think the reason I didn't actually write this in, Monica, when I sent this, is probably because if I remember correctly, the way this was originally written gives a lot of flexibility to the boards of supervisor to do that. And I guess, Dennis, I always liked the idea that we were giving flexibility to the board of supervisor. We're giving them a guide. So I guess for the exclusions, I guess I was sort of just thinking maybe it should be a little bit more of a guide than a hardcore exclusion. That was the only thought.
I mean, I don't disagree with you because it's, or it either because that list is not, somewhere there's some language should also state that it's not, those are not exclusive either, right? There could be others. It's just not listed here as well, right?
Good point. Yeah.
Because times change, moralities change, and someone might list this and say it's not on here, so it's not applicable. But we have the right to, exclude, and it's up to the board. So somewhere maybe some language in there, Monica, that the board of supervisors ultimately has the final decision on.
Well, I think that's implied, Doug, but I did like maybe there is something, you just bunch all those things up into some sort of broader label that just says names.
Be cautious of.
Morality was the word that kind of stuck with me, but
yeah, it's a morality clause.
Names to be considered will have to fit with the current morality. Things can change. Maybe I don't know. Maybe tobacco finds a way to make it harmless, and it becomes maybe you smoke a cigarette and you get healthier, and then you'd want to include them. So maybe just excluding them, like Brody says, is kind of wrong. But your moral compass would shift at that point, right? And saying maybe
medical marijuana could be considered an interesting scenario, just in that sense.
I mean, back in the day,
from hardcore illegal to now medicine. So
That's the example that I was thinking of, Brody. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, whatever, 20 years ago was Viagra came out. I mean, it was it's medicinal, but someone might find it. I think if you were offensive, right, is somewhere needs to be put in there that any naming, an offensive can mean a lot of things to different people. But
So, hey, Doug, can we just ask, is there anything else in this particular policy? Because Brody raises a good point there. Maybe we're not going to kind of land on the words today, but we push this one off to the next meeting. But we take a crack at kind of redoing that sentence to kind of do something that's less specific, more broad.
Monica, when do we expect legal feedback?
I don't know. I hope soon.
Question: do we have to approve it, or can we push this to the Board of Supervisors with our comments that we just said with regard to questions about the language, and maybe that should be considered to be changed? Or do we have to have it changed, look at it, and then approve it?
I would recommend that the park board feel completely comfortable with the document that you're sending.
Okay.
So we can work on wordsmithing those bullets under that section. Well, it'll also give us time to get any legal feedback, and then we can, to Dennis' point, we can hold off on approving this one.
Yeah,
we're good with that. I think we're close. We just need some minor edits.
I have one question about it though. So does everything have to go in the order that it's in? Because I feel like it's the last section on the last page where they say that the names are intended to be permanent and renaming is discouraged. I feel like that should be earlier on, because the whole time I'm reading it, I'm thinking to myself, can we just rename things on a whim? It feels like if anyone's like, oh, I want a different name for something, I can submit it. So I feel like that should be bolded and upfront, that first and foremost, this is not something that should be happening often.
That's a good point. I mean, and the question is, back to your point, Michael, do we even take out the naming or renaming, right? I mean, the intent probably was someone named a park, and that should be in perpetuity unless something's uncovered and all of a sudden, we're like, we don't want to have that park in that person's name anymore.
I think moving the renaming thing under objections on page 1 might make sense.
No problem with moving that at all.
Now, there was very little discussion about the Memorial Park section. Does anybody have any feelings about that?
Where does it say memorial?
So I think this section, where that jumped out at me, or if we're gonna, so I guess where I was thinking it was the park facility renaming section, where it says so right below renaming. So the third one, all proposals to change a name should be subject to no, not that one.
It's the one after that one.
Yes, right. Parks facilities names for subjects rather than individuals may be changed in name only if the current name is ineffectual or inappropriate. As I said, it just jumped out at me that it seemed like we were really just trying to say, let's not rename 9/11 Memorial Park. And personally, I'd just be more apt to just come out and say, we're not renaming that.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Which is totally counter to the specific specificity that I had on the previous thing. But that would I'm not but that would just be my thought.
I mean, I don't know if by calling it out, that's not necessarily a policy, but right. It's
yeah.
I can tell you, Brody, I don't think that was the intent, even though it may seem like it. It's intended to be more of a generic type document, and
okay.
I would agree with Doug. Like, you probably want to avoid putting specific things in there, like we won't rename Memorial Park, but that can be something, a stand that the supervisors, take very strongly. Just like, fine, we got this policy to guide us. We're not going to change Memorial Park's name.
Right. And the reality is that, I'm with you. I agree on that.
So
Yeah.
Moving
can't
the
imagine
renaming
that's-
section.
the paragraph where it says park facility renaming and then renaming, some of that's just duplicative. Like you already say the same things in the bullets. So I don't know if you just want to remove the paragraph and just leave park/facility renaming. Since most of what is said in the paragraph is restated in the bullets.
Okay. Now, what I will leave it if you want. I know that Mike wants to wordsmith a little bit here in this
Sure.
exceptions area. If you want to send me proposed edits that you have on the Word document that I sent you, just make sure you track your changes so I can see. Some of you didn't track your changes, so I'm hoping that I got everything that you put in. But if you see that something's missing, I apologize.
No problem. Okay. All right. So we'll make those edits and then we'll also wait to hear what comes back from legal. All right. We got operating, naming, storage equipment's next. That one was pretty short and brief.
Yeah, storage, there were no edits.
Motion to approve storage of equipment.
I need a
Pending.
motion. I just agree or disagree with it.
Yeah, agree. All right. Monica, we're good on that one.
So do you want to? Okay, so I have to write a document to the Board of Supervisors saying that you either approved or didn't approve. So formal votes are helpful.
All right.
Why don't we go through all of them, and then once we have the list, I'll make a motion to approve the storage equipment, and I'll give you all the ones that we're going to approve, and we'll approve all the ones that we approve, and then the 3 or 4 that we don't, or whatever ones we don't, we'll
Keeping a running list. I've got 2 so far out of 3. So next one up is the programming and events policy.
There wasn't by much in here at all as far as edits.
Wasn't this one relatively new to when you joined, Monica? I felt like
This is brand new. This is all new.
Yeah.
This is something that we need to have in place as part of CAPRA, something that we should have in place, but sponsorship and that type of thing, or special events, this is all new.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with this one. I was good with this one.
Oh, is this the one that was unedited, Bertie? Is that what you're saying? Is this the one that I sent out?
Yeah, I just thought that I thought we'd gone through this in the 3 years I've been on the board, in the few years I've been on the board.
Yeah, we can regroup on this. I'm not sure that you had the opportunity to do an initial run through on this particular policy.
All right. So everybody should go take another look at this one, and we won't. Mike, this one's not. It's one that's not going to be moved forward to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
All right. Donations and sponsorship policy.
Again, this one is new. We've done donation and sponsorship, individual things. This would be a guiding principle policy that we follow moving forward that will help us decision make on how we're going to do things. You did have the opportunity to review this one. They're very minor edits. If anybody has anything tonight, that'd be great.
And sponsorship in this term is not like in naming, right? Sponsorship is more about a short term.
More for special events. Now, the question that was posed by someone, which Doug, you reminded me just now, I wrote myself a note here. Someone did ask, and I'm not sure whose comment was who, so if you want to claim it, it's up to you. Someone did ask about sponsorship regarding leagues. The intent of this document wasn't for that in particular, that specific thing. It's more for township type events or programs or even, things like the dog park, that type of thing. That's more to guide that than the leagues the leagues kind of do their own, and we give them some guidelines about how they can hang banners or that type of thing.
That makes sense. This is so specific to township events.
Yes.
I thought this doc made sense personally.
Yep. I didn't have any changes. Everybody's good with this one?
I have no issue with it.
Okay.
One comment. None of these, there's no level of financial donation that requires supervisor's approval
Yeah, it was 10,000 or above.
unless, no, it says township manager, and he may require review.
Got it.
It's up to the township manager. So that we're saying that, I just want everyone to understand, there's nothing here that mandates any level go to the supervisors. It's all at the discretion of the township manager.
Well, this will be reviewed by legal, right? And then they'll make a determination if that's proper or improper.
Yes.
James, how do you feel about that?
Let me talk to my lawyer.
What part about the meeting, Rob? Turning it to James.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Mike's point, this is going to be reviewed by our legal. So
Yeah.
whether it's proper or improper, at the discretion of the 10,000 ceiling, at the discretion of the managers. I don't know if there's a specific second class township code that allows that. So I think that, once the solicitor takes a look at it and says, yeah, that's within the second class township code, then I guess from there we have to, whether or not we approve it as a board after that is the case. But yeah.
That's James, that's a really good point. So Monica, I don't know if within the township there is any sort of code that would apply to taking money, but it should be obviously consistent with whatever that code is, if it does exist. Right? I don't think this could stand alone and usurp any of the other township regulation around receipt of money.
Sure, and of course that's why the legal review. But it's taking money. I could do it however you want me to do it. I'm glad. I don't want to break the law, so that's just how we put it in initially. I believe the thought process was, at what level of, we want to keep the board of supervisors in the loop. Of course, if we're going to receive $10,000, I don't know at that level. I'd be glad to change it however you like. I just put out a first swing to see how everybody felt, to be honest.
In the past, for any of our events, have we've gotten anything in cash donations in those amounts before? And what was the supervisor's role?
I believe that I can recall, I think our largest for community day was 5,000. I don't think we made it to 10,000.
And this is cash or in-kind donations? Does it matter?
In kind, yeah.
So do we have
we did have the donation of the half this year. If we're talking in kind.
Do we have to include that in terms of, is it right now it just has a dollar amount? Do we have to put dollar and in kind?
We can.
Hit it. Just so we're consistent. Like, I don't know what, people donate labor, donate materials, just.
Well, if you put in kind, does that mean like if somebody donates a plot of land, is that going to fall under?
Well, everything has a value, right? That's why I'm just trying to make sure that regardless of whether it's cash or materials or labor or land, that whatever that amount value, or if the supervisor needs to approve it, regardless of the value, right?
Something I'm losing here is there's the donation policy versus the sponsorship policy. So if they're sponsoring an event and they're getting something by way of marketing, that's one thing. If they're donating to us, that's a whole different section of this policy.
If someone comes to you and says, hey, I want to sponsor this, but I don't have money, but I can give you this for the sponsorship, right? So let's just say I'm going to go back to Community Pride Day and they provide something else. Let's say the fireworks company says, we'll provide you with the fireworks, but we want our name up in lights across the thing as presenting sponsor, right?
Yeah. They're getting something for something.
Right.
That would be more of a sponsorship.
Right.
It's a donation, like a donation of the path. They weren't expecting anything from us. I mean, we celebrate it and we were so excited and we put it everywhere, but they weren't really expecting.
But I still think somebody could ask for something in return by not providing cash. They could provide something.
Yeah. So we can change that wording to cash.
Okay.
And in kind.
You kind of have it there, right? Cash, products, and/or services, right?
Yeah.
So you could just change the language under, and just put value. But do we want to approve this one, or do we want to keep making edits and come back to this one?
I'm fine with approving it.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Good.
All right, so we're good on that one. Right? All right, fields and facilities.
There was one bigger edit. What was number 3, which was there was a comment about concession fees. This was an older document that I had edited, and I didn't recognize that. I missed it. I just removed the whole comment. It says that the concession fee that will be charged, but we don't even have a concession fee that we charge to our leagues. They use the concessions and they make profits for their league as a fundraiser. At this time, that's how we do it. If you want to change that at some point, I'm not recommending it at this time. But that was the only large change on this document.
So is that the case? So there are no paid workers anymore at any of the leagues, right? I know when I was at PAA, we used to hire, teenagers. I think it's all now considered volunteer work, right? You have to, in lieu of, right? Volunteer time.
As far as I'm aware.
I just didn't know from YMS. I know in Pennsbury, those are the only 2 that really have concessions, right? I don't know if football does or not.
YMS doesn't really use the concessions as much as they used to. They've brought in food trucks at times.
Got it. Okay.
But they don't use it as much. As far as paying people, I am unaware of any payment to anybody.
Well, they'll use it at the big tournaments, right?
Limited. Really, they bring in food trucks now more than they do for concessions. Food trucks don't like the competition of the concession stand. So sometimes they'll just do drinks or something like that at the concession.
All right.
Okay. Any other changes from anybody? Oh, and Monica, I know I made some comments about the pavilions rented. Any persons must vacate their paid renters. Renters must have a permit in hand. I think the 2 bullets, I think.
Oh, you just want to change that? To be honest, the receipt and the permit are the same thing.
Yeah, it was just the first bullet and the second bullet. I just didn't know. I guess it's the same. I mean, it's okay.
So you would rather have that as a bullet instead of like a paragraph?
No, where are you looking at?
I'm looking at field and pavilion rental permits. Is that where you're looking? Under park pavilions. What would you?
I think that's fine. I think one just clarifies. The second one just clarifies it a little bit. The first one says you have to have it in hand. The second one says that it's okay digitally or in paper format. And
yeah, I think there was another bullet in there that we probably took out that I hadn't made comments on the first time. So,
was your comment to remove the bullet?
I think there was an extra bullet in there that was duplicative, so it came out.
Oh, yes, I probably just removed it.
Okay. No, I'm good. Okay, this one's good to approve. Mike, keeping track?
All in favor? Yeah, good.
Yep. All right, risk management, Monica, policy.
There really wasn't any changes to this.
Okay.
Move that one on. Aye. Favor.
All right, league sanctioning. This one was, I think,
This
probably.
was a hot topic. Everybody had comments on this one. So I made some adjustments. Most of the comments we had were about the percentages. And I really tend to agree with some of the comments that it didn't really fit into the rules of the sanctioning. It was more of a guideline later on. So I moved where that was really in location and changed some of the wording. I suggest that you really take a look at it and feel comfortable with the way that was changed, because I know this is important to the township and I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable. If anybody on the board kind of wants to talk about how they were feeling, I think that'd probably be the best way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the past there's been written numbers about expectations for the leagues in terms of number of in-house residents, in-house residents that are participants, and the guidelines. I don't recall in my time in PAA, and Dennis, I don't know in your time in YMS, if any of these things had ever been enforceable, or they were more discussion points in terms of, hey, what are you doing? What's the trend in the league? What are some of the challenges? And so I'd love to get your thoughts regarding putting numbers in here, because it changes, it ebbs and flows, the boundaries move. Leagues are very different. Football's got a different structure than baseball, and so by default, their numbers are not going to be the same. Soccer's got a highly mature travel program that draws a lot of kids from the area. So I think we just need to be mindful as to these are more guidelines and what those numbers mean.
Are you talking about the percentage of residents?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Resident, non-resident percentages.
Yeah.
I've been involved with both PAA and YMS, and the numbers did not seem to be an issue to me. I mean, in-house seems easily exceeding the 80% in all the examples I've been involved with, and travel seems also to be kind of an easy hurdle to cross, with only half the team being travel or township residents. But
Yardley and Morrisville wouldn't be included in that.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I think the discussion was about just, if new leagues are formed and they're trying to secure, space, I think we created some language that would still provide existing leagues, priority usage, as long as they're in good standing, and they're not falling well below certain numbers, which I think is what the intent is here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just somebody could come in and say, I just grabbed 100 kids that all Lower Makefield residents, and I'm going to start my own league, and I now want to, take space away from an existing organization. I think that was not the intent.
Well, that sounds like it's just a malicious act, but I mean,
Right.
if there was a program that was like, say, 0 township kids in the program, and then there was a desire in the township amongst the residents to have kids participate in the program, and another league did get created that was 100% residents, I would think we'd want to give the edge eventually to, and maybe not like a sudden drop off the cliff, but maybe next year we don't renew the one that was no residents and give permits and recognize the league that is the township one. That doesn't seem weird to me.
No, I mean, we're not in that situation where somebody's come in and filled a void and said, we've got, a new sport. I don't know, Cam Jam League or whatever, and we've got 100 kids from outside the township, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Hey, I can do that," and now they've got all these kids in here. I think it was just making sure the existing leagues are protected in a way, as long as they're in good standing.
Well, I think, yeah, but also the dynamics of that situation, I think if it materialized, would be the team or the league that was falling below the threshold would have a chance to reestablish themselves above the threshold, right, before they just get their legs cut out from under them. So if the league started in good standing and then some people moved out, new kids came in, and now you're at 40% say for travel, before we just say, you're done, these other guys are in, they'd have a chance to reestablish their 50%. Say, listen, you guys are in violation of this threshold. You need to kind of shift your membership a little bit. I don't know. See, it doesn't seem weird. And that would only be if there was pressure from another group that, was indeed above the 50% threshold.
And it's not necessarily, Monica, a substitutable, like it could be any league. Like somebody can come in and start a new sport in and just says, I need that field space. And they're, it's not a new football league, right? It could be, hey, rugby. Or something. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, as long as the leagues today are like Monica, you have the numbers, as long as they're mindful of where they are, so that if they're below the numbers, at least they're aware of that, and make sure that they've are communicated with the new policy.
So just a quick question, just with all this said, what do you think? And this is off the cuff. I try not to do that at meetings, but what do you think about doing an annual review of all the leagues every year? So
that should be done.
Require that the board review the leagues and all their stuff every year. Did they meet all the criteria?
I think that should be done.
Yeah, I didn't know that that's not being done. So that seems logical to me that it definitely should be.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend some sort of state of the business, right? So they should be able to come in and at the end of whatever season we define. So I know everybody's got a different season, but if we identify like a point in time, we would review certain numbers, cost, expenses. I think one of the things that I think everybody needs to do a better job, and I know it's part of CAPRA, is a survey. So like, what are the what surveys did the leagues do? What results did they find? And they can present back. I know it's an added burden to some of those leagues to probably put together some additional information, but that's just my thoughts, right? So, what did they identify as opportunities? How does the township help them? Anybody else have any thoughts about implementing something like that?
Well, I don't know if we've had any feedback from the leagues specifically about the numbers. Like, has anyone complained that these are too stringent?
Well, I can tell you right now that not everybody meets the numbers. I don't want to call any one person out right now, but not everybody meets the numbers that we have in place now. Particularly, I'm just going to say
well, and their leagues are different the way they're structured, right? They have much larger boundaries. You just
right, but they're not being They're not being challenged by an internal group, are they?
No, So that's why we were saying, after some discussion, that maybe we need to take it out of the overview section, all the real requirements, and put it more in the rules and governing section. And that's really what we did. We moved it from the one section to the other with some extra wording saying, leagues that keep that criteria, maintain that criteria, get a priority over others.
It wasn't like the defining measure that said if you fall below, like you lose your space. It was more a part of the consideration set, but not the deciding factor. So,
right.
So why is there no actual minimum? Like, it seems crazy to me that basically what this is saying is, as long as you don't have competition from someone else who's going to push you out, you could literally have not a single person in Lower Makefield on your league and you could still use our fields. Because that just seems weird to me.
Kim, I think that's what a review would help. So I could pull their packet together. I already give numbers every year. But I could pull the pack together with all of the things, all the requirements, give it to the board per league at the end of the year with all the stuff. And then you guys can kind of have a discussion on each league, knowing the information that kind of help weed some of that stuff out. Not saying that I don't look at it. I just can. There is no league right now that has no Lower Makefield Township.
But even if they had 0, we don't have any kind of criteria that would say you have 0, so you can't participate. Like, they'd be fine as long as no one was coming up against them, like, oppositionally, I guess.
I mean, right now, again, the way I look at it is if somebody's filling a void in the community, right? But for some reason, nobody in Lower Makefield's taking advantage of it. It's like, hey, this is where I could get field space. Keep in mind, Kim, they do pay a higher rate to use the field, so the township doesn't get higher revenue from that. Okay. But clearly, that's not the intent, right? So, but if we have field space available and somebody's coming in and saying, we've got 100 kids that are willing to do this activity, and unfortunately nobody, it's really about availability, but they would have to pay, a rate that's 2x, right? Okay. For renting that space. So
can I ask, I understand the wording of this seems to be geared for the youth leagues like YMS, PAA or whatever, but if I know that there's like adult baseball teams that use the baseball fields, like pickleball leagues, tennis leagues, or technically would they fall under this and need to have all of those protocols of concussion protocol, everything like that, to be able to get a permit?
Well, those are suggested kind of protocols, like an outline of suggested things that you might have, like football might have concussion, soccer might have concussion, baseball might not have concussion because it's not as high of an incident rate for baseball. Tennis and pickleball. Pickleball is not a league. It's actually run by the township now. So it's considered kind of like a club. But tennis does have to meet these. Rob, we have an outline of user groups and how they're measured. I can share that with you. That would be helpful for you, I think, with that question.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say that when this came out, I was definitely a big proponent of making a change on this. The way it was originally written, it was, I think, like a 1 through 12 or something like that. And so when I was seeing things like list your current board of directors or something that I can totally get behind and understand 100% why that would be mandatory in setting up a relationship and maintaining a league relationship, that when I started looking at those numbers, that from just my knowledge of the leagues, I was very skeptical that we'd hit those numbers or be close to them. I like how it was changed and that was moved out of that initial section, because that initial section seems like very slam dunk obvious that like you would obviously need like proof that you're a nonprofit, like who your board of directors are, like all that stuff really made a lot of sense to me in terms of like the legality of your organization. And then to me, the rules and exceptions become almost like our business decision, right? Like you can't play you can't use our fields without covering us legally and covering us like from a risk management standpoint. And then when we're talking about the percentages, to me, that's more of like, we're in the business of getting our parks used and like, how do we want to like manage that business? So to me, that's kind of why I like that we've separated that top section and the bottom section. For me, as I said, like the percentages, I'd be fine to tweak them. Something I'd like to see in it would be that we're not just considering as a hard percentage, but also as a total number of people. So hold on one second. Go away. If you have
your wife, Brody.
Say that again.
That's no way to speak to your wife.
That's not my wife. That's my son. He says hi to everybody. Good night. I love you. if a league is 95% residents and they have 100 people, and another league has 400 residents, but they're only 70% or 65%. I just don't think by just doing a hard percentage, it fully looks at the math to.
The first bullet in that one says number of LMT participants overall.
I'm on the second page.
Yeah, the first page, Mike, I made that change because you suggested it.
Okay.
3 bullets of things that we'll prioritize. Participants overall.
She took care of you?
Not the other page. So.
Yeah.
She took care of you, Mike.
Yeah. But so prior to that being in, that had been my thinking. So we didn't have that. We just had the hard percentages, and it was included with those other pieces of information that I consider like mandatory legal information. Like you're running a league. You need to have insurance. You need to have this. Like you don't need to have Lower Makefield residents. That's now our business of how do we run our business of our Parks and Recs. So at least that was my mentality in asking for, because I feel like a lot of these changes were around what I was asking for.
So I don't disagree with your logic there. I think that makes sense to have the absolutes and then the guiding principles kind of thing. Maybe just in that top section though, after the first sentence of overview where it says any organization needs to apply, period. And then it's requirements, and those things are listed like Brody was saying. Those are absolutes. You got to have a certificate of insurance. You got to tell us who your board of directors is. You got to make sure your financial person is bonded, blah, blah, blah. And then the last section, I'm fine as it is, but I do like the way that's been structured. This is a nice little layout.
Okay.
So I do think that's a good point. Brody, you obviously, this is township land and parks that's being used to the extent possible, mostly for township resident benefit. And if there's an organization that's got a lot more interest, then they should be given preference. So I like that ad you made about number of LMT participants overall, and it's a factor, and it should be one of the factors we consider. In that example you gave, it was perfect.
Maybe that bottom section should not be titled in terms of, and I'm not sure I have the right title, but maybe it should be more of like rules towards allocations or guidelines towards allocations or considerations towards field allocations. Because really that's what we're talking about there is like when we're not talking about like, should you be able to be a league? We're talking about like what should be considerations when we're talking about how we allocate fields out.
It's just more of a guiding principles and not a rules and exceptions, right?
Yeah. And then that would then make sense. Now you have number of residents, percentage of residents, number of years as an organization. And then it gives you a little bit more of a hierarchy, kind of going back to that naming policy, right? Like it gives us, it's not making a decision for us. It's giving us a bunch of things that we can look at, data points that we can look at. So that if we actually are in this situation where we have like, a can jam and some other cornhole league, and they both want to battle for a field, for the turf at YMS. I don't know. That we have guiding principles to evaluate it.
Yeah, I like it, guiding principles. Any of those are good.
I think we do need a cornhole league and a kickball league.
Yeah,
get on that.
and not for nothing, maybe out of respect for the long relationships, maybe there should be a bullet point that if there's some degree of a relationship that like, maybe it should have to get to board of supervisor approval to relinquish that. If one of our big 3 leagues, right? Like, if one of our big 3 leagues, like, which I guess I'd be considering football, soccer, and baseball right now. I mean, like if somebody was really trying to take over one of their leases, it would seem that they've been a very long partner of the township. It would seem that we might really need to escalate that up.
You could add language if you want, saying any new league formation would require board of supervisor approval. Right? It would go from us, right? They would, a new league would come in and say, they would present to us and we would have to go present to the board of supervisors for approval of the formation of the league. So you could add a bullet in the front half, which would require, not only would they have to meet the guideline, meet all the criteria, but it would also then have to go to the Board of Supervisors, right? Because knowing the next step would be they would be requiring or requesting field space. So I mean,
Right.
that's something if you want to add to that.
Well, that's an option. I don't know. James, are you still on? Would you guys really want to have stuff like that go to the supervisors, or we could actually just embellish that last point, that last bullet under number 3, which talks about number of years, but maybe it's number of years in relationship, because I think of like when YMS wanted to put that field in, that turf field, they had to have some standing agreement that there would be a long-term lease to them for that property, because they were spending $1.5 million to put the field in, and it couldn't like be kicked out the next year. It wouldn't have made sense for them to do the investment then. So, I mean, there are other mitigating factors that have to be considered. I don't know what they are. Maybe we don't have to list them all, but just identify that, any other mitigating factors can be.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to, long-term relationships, especially when, a league is, like you said, putting in $1.5 million into a township asset, and, you kick them out the next year, I guess there's going to be legal standing contracts that maybe, we had with YMS. I'm not quite sure what the legality of what that would be, but yeah, I mean, I think considering the long-term relationships we have with the big 3, like Mike talked about, is important. I don't know if you're right. I don't know if necessarily it would be a board of supervisors ruling to say, hey, we're allowing this new league to come in and relinquishing field space from another existing.
I think I mean, my only comment to that is that they're township assets, right? So if a new league's coming in and we're giving them assets to use, right? Or in replace of an existing league, or we all of a sudden come up with more space that's the other leagues don't need, and we're going to bring in a new league to fill a void, and they're going to use township assets, and they're not meeting the criteria. That might be something that we want you guys to consider.
Well, they wouldn't get approved if they didn't meet the criteria.
They would meet the upfront criteria, but let's say they were, to your point earlier, they were less than 50% LMT residents or 40%, whatever the number is, right? They meet all the above up top stuff, but when you put their roster together, they didn't attract as many residents as they thought initially, right? But we're giving them the ability to use our assets. Right?
I mean, a very, very, very realistic scenario. And I say this because a coach from their team said this to me in the parking lot at basketball tryouts tonight, is Morrisville is no longer part of Morrisville Little League. And they come to us and say that, hey, we want to start a little league in Lower Makefield. And they want to bring Morrisville Little League to Lower Makefield. And I'm not going there in terms of what we'd approve, but that's a very, very realistic scenario that could come up if they build that development over in Morrisville and wipe out all those baseball fields.
I second that with Brody, but just to confirm with the board, this is a real issue. That's something that we're going to have to really take a look at here in the near future. In the past, Morrisville is asked to use our facilities. If they lose their facilities, where will they go? They do have a large percentage of LMT residents on them. It'd be something certainly that you have to think about, might be a possibility in the future, a very real possibility.
I have comments about that, but I will withhold them at this point in time.
I'm feeling like there's so much discussion around this particular document that maybe we should push this one off to February for further review.
You got it.
Okay. All right. And then last one is security and access.
This one looks good.
This one had a lot of changes, but I think it's much cleaner product now. There was a little bit of duplication, a little bit of extra that didn't necessarily need to be in there. And I feel very comfortable with this now, but it's up to the board.
The only other question that I have after this is all mostly pertaining to keys and leagues, right?
Yeah.
Does not pertain to the key fobs for the dog park access.
Well, that's a membership access. It's a little bit,
okay.
It's a little bit different. Now there are keys to get in there also, and there's keys to get into the access shed out there that are different than, we don't sign out to anybody, but access as a membership, I believe, is a little different than access to facilities.
Okay, so, and this would apply to anybody who's, has the codes for the pickleball shed or any other township,
Yes,
shed.
or the community center, have access to the community center for a meeting or anything like that.
Okay, well, we're all good with that one. So,
The league like YMS and PAA with the keys, it says designated season. Do their seasons ever really end and they'll be turning keys in, or is it just kind of,
Good point.
Well, to be honest, Rob, we actually had a pretty,
I still have my keys.
we're going to have to do end of year from now on because so many people had keys to the light that people were just turning them on and off at a whim. We really need to get some control around it. So maybe at the end of the year, every year, we'll have to do
This
a
one has
transition.
Mac lights on it. This one has.
Yeah, so Doug is proving the point that there has to be some sort of turn.
Monica, why can't we go digital? Put some sort of digital coding that you can change every couple of months or year.
Yeah, it's like.
I think that would be really cool and something that we should consider sometime in the future.
It's not a great, it's not an old technology. It's kind of, or it is an older technology now. You can certainly do that. Have the access.
Now there's new technology where you can have it on your phone as an app. So like I have with the dog park, I have access. I can unlock it at any time or change code or anything. There are certain fields that we do have that I can have access to that, but there'd have to be a little bit of work done. But not all of our fields. A lot of our lights are pretty old.
Who turns off the basketball lights?
Timer.
They're on a timer.
Hey, Monica, one other thing too. I don't know. I didn't go through all the documents to see if it was addressed, but what is the official name of our group? And in terms of, is it Parks ampersand Recreation? Is it Park and like we should, not that it's a huge deal, but it should probably just be consistent throughout.
I can double check that that's correct in every single document before I pass it forward.
Which is correct? Which is it?
I usually write out end, but I'd be glad to use the ampersand.
I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know which is.
Either way, I think is fine. But I agree with you. It should be consistent. If it's not.
So, Doug, if you'd be so you have to make this motion for you.
Yeah, my list is the ones that I'll give you the ones that are not. Do you have the list in front of you or no?
I have it. Yeah, I'm good. It's not sanctioning user groups. It's not park and rec programs and events, and it's not naming policy.
Yeah, those were the three that we will continue to work on.
And we already had the motion on park and rec operating policy, right?
And storage and equipment. I think it was just the.
I think we only did one. Why don't we just do them all in one clean one, and she can.
Sure.
All right. As she does so well. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve, pending legal review, the security and access policy, the Parks and Recs department operating policy, the storage of equipment document, the donation policy, which also contains the sponsorship policy, the fields and facilities document, and the risk management policy statement.
Got them right.
For submitting to the Board of Supervisors, right? For their
correct. For submitting to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Dennis.
I second.
Anybody want to second the motion?
Dennis seconded.
Seconded.
I didn't hear you, Dennis. Sorry. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Motion on those policies are approved, and we will then wait to hear back on the legal. And in the meantime, we'll make any other continued revisions on the naming policy, programming events, and the league sanction.
Monica, would you mind sending out those three again?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
Monica, do you have any other
Just two quick things. I included in your packet, the Board of Supervisor approved an updated version. The board had a lot of feedback and comments. There's a lot of changes. So this document for risk management has been changed but approved then by the Board of Supervisors. And also approved by the Board of Supervisors. I can't remember if this was the last meeting or not. I apologize, but the 9/11 committee was approved by the Board of Supervisors, I believe, since the last meeting. And the great thing about this risk management emergency action plan plus this risk management policy that you guys just approved tonight, that closes out Chapter 9 of the CAPRA accreditation. So having those two things will close out the chapter for us, which is very exciting. We're one chapter closed, which is good. Also, just quickly, I'm not going to go over the whole survey, but we did put out the survey for the pool. I sent it out to you, the board. You can see all the results that we got back. We had a pretty good response. We learned some lessons, as I put in the memo, for next time. So we will definitely do a second survey. There were some people who asked if we would add their responses in after the fact, and the answer to that is no. This was just a little fact-finding mission to see where everybody stands. We got a good glimpse at what people are feeling, and there'll be a second survey coming up soon. And they can also send feedback anytime by email. This was just a snapshot. So, that is complete and closed. And then today we did an initial meeting with the swim team, kind of open up the door to discussion about what we might be doing this summer. And I think we all can agree when we open the pool that we try to do something with the swim team. But we don't know what that something will be, whether it's just practice in the morning, limited hours, and what those guidelines are going to be. It's just nice to start that discussion this year. We will have an open forum to discuss the results of the survey on February 11th or 10th via Zoom. We will limit the discussion to 2 hours. So, I'll give a presentation about the, survey results. We'll open it up to questions. We'll close it out at the 2 hour mark. I believe the meeting starts at 6, so we'll close it at 8. After that, anybody can give any comments or feedback via email. We'll be collecting all that feedback along the way. And also tomorrow night, we're having a meeting for potential staff for this summer for the pool. So we're going to go over a number of things, how to fill out your application. We learned that it's probably just good to educate how to fill out the application, what to expect from an interview, how we do training, what to expect this year with training, some initial COVID protocols and how we're reviewing stuff to keep them safe. Those type of things are things we're going to cover. I highly suggest anybody who's considering applying or maybe on the fence about coming back or doesn't feel comfortable to come to that meeting, assess your comfort level after we talk and we hear you. There will be also room for feedback in that meeting so we can hear from people or potential candidates. So there's also that meeting. And if anybody has any questions, I'm open to them. And if not, that's all I have for tonight.
Monica, I just have a question. Did the swim team give you any indication about what their feelings, their numbers might be for next year? They think their participation will be about the same, 50%?
They feel it will be lower. Some people did go to other swim teams. They're talking about potentially merging with the Brookside team. I don't know all the swim teams in the area that well, but a potential merger, but they definitely feel like their numbers are going to be lower than they were in the past. So I guess we just wait and see what they're looking at. And kind of gauging that number will also help us indicate, what we can do and can't do. So if they have high numbers, we may have to limit the number of people that can participate at any time. We may have to limit the way that we schedule them. So knowing those numbers, who's going to to register. It's really going to be important for us when planning.
So who's helping you with the planning? Do we have a pool person working with you, or?
Well, I've managed pools for a long time, so I have a lot of experience there. We are also part of the Bucksmont Aquatics Consortium. So we are talking to all the other area managers very openly. Our staff has been working on it as a team to do background research on other facilities, those who have opened, those who did not open. We're also tracking all the state, national, and county guidelines that are ever changing. And we're on a national level. There are open forums through our national governing body, NERPA, that we can go on and kind of discuss, a range of things with people from around the country who have had different experiences, which has been quite interesting, to say the least. Problems in California, problems in Minnesota, what worked, what didn't work. So we're also using that as a resource too. So we have a wide range of resources to use as we go into this next year.
Thanks for the update, Monica. Anybody else have any other points of business for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
If not, then we would like to have the honors to make a motion to adjourn.
Already just did.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Have a good week.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Right.